So there was a lot of periods in my life when, even though I considered and thought of getting into the tech industry or at least start studying computer science, I pretty much talked myself out of it. Now, some of these times would be especially when I was doing a job that I really was miserable in. But I think also for me, just being in that particular job, which was difficult, no paying, it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where I thought to myself, oh, because I'm in this job, I probably couldn't do something as difficult as that. And, that was something that maybe I didn't outright know consciously, but I think at a subconscious level, I was just constantly telling myself that because even though the interest was there and the willingness to do it was there was always an excuse, there was always a reason to not even look into it, right? And I don't know, I look at these images now and I'm really reminded of just how much I dislike being in these kind of jobs. And I just want to tell you, there's nothing wrong with having these jobs. A job is a job, if you work hard, you can do well. But I know for me, anytime a job got very repetitive, very taxing, very, just over time, it made me miserable and I just wanted to do something else. And I just want to tell you that if you have this kind of job, it doesn't matter what it pays, it doesn't matter how, if people want to talk down it. I know people always like to make jokes about that. You can always tell, but that doesn't mean that you're not smart enough. That doesn't mean that you can't do something in a different industry. And then most definitely doesn't mean that you can thrive in something like the tech industry, right? So I just want to say that outright because I know for me, as somebody that, I was in the back in McDonald's flipping burgers, I was, sweeping up the popcorn in the movie theater, I was dealing with customers that wanted returns at the mall, this and that. There was times where I wish somebody had reached out to me and even just given me the time of day, or rather I wish I had been a little more courageous in reaching out and trying to ask people about the tech industry. So that's just a little bit of what that was like, right? And I had many jobs besides this, but I think there's definitely these three definitely make it the top three for me in terms of unpleasantness, repetitiveness, and just very very draining jobs, right? So by the end of this video, what we're gonna have is, I know if you've been thinking about the tech industry, but maybe you're overwhelmed by the coding, maybe you don't even know what kind of job to look into, maybe you're scared because of AI and everybody says not to do it anymore. We're gonna take a very simple approach for you to figure out what the right area of tech would be for you, and you're gonna feel confident afterwards pursuing more information in that direction, right? So we're gonna look at a few pictures and I want you to just trust your instinct in terms of which one speaks out to you the most, right? So let's consider this image right here, right? This guy, or this image, I just named it. This would be for somebody that's like an innovative individual, right? Now, innovative, I don't mean that you're in your basement just constantly, making inventions, this and that. I mean innovative, but also, I mean innovative in terms of somebody that wants to find solutions to problems. Somebody that's comfortable, if you're somebody that you feel comfortable learning new tools, learning new software. And I'm obviously not talking about something in terms of like the coding side. I assume you've never done that before. But I know for me early on, one of the things that I was really curious about, I always liked downloading, installing new software. I always liked computers. I always liked working with technology. So I was always at least curious. And if there was any problem that I thought I could find a way to do it in a better way with technology, I was always one to try it out, right? And I'm thinking, I don't mean this to sound like technical in any way at all. One example of that is when I was little, when I was in elementary. Well, this was back in the day because I am in my 30s. One of the things I thought was really cool would be to learn how to burn CDs. A lot of my friends didn't do it. Granted, whether it was because they didn't have computers or something like that, but I know I was very intrigued by the idea of me being able to figure out how to do it, and me being able to do it to make CDs and give my friends music. So that's one aspect of what I mean, that like you're trying to innovate in terms of finding a new solution to a current problem that you have. And like I said, look at the picture, right? Like there's code in the screens, there's diagrams, there's books, that's probably documentation, and this person looks very pensive, very in thought, and very engaged with their work, right? Now, if you're intrigued by this, I think that's a good sign. And if you're maybe disgusted by this, maybe you wouldn't want to be in this position, then that's fine. We're going to move on to something else. So this one, I just labeled it analytical, right? So if you look closely, this person, they kind of have some different things going on for them, right? There's more graphs, there's more charts, there's some coding here and there, but not nearly as much as the previous one, right? There's books, there's information all around them. So if this speaks to you in that sense, right, like maybe you're a little more analytical, maybe you like engaging more with like the relationships between different types of information, I think this might be something that appeals to you, right? Just the image itself, right? And if data science or, statistics, stuff like that has ever interested you, then maybe that's something you would consider doing, right? Maybe you don't know what that job is, but maybe you've thought in your head that, being behind the screen, looking at data, being able to pull information, being able to create, valuable insights to present to others in an easy way. Maybe that's something that maybe that's something you've been curious about, right? And then the last one I have here is artistic. So if we look at this setup, very different from the other two, right? We see a lot of drawings, we see a lot of art, we see a lot of, a very creative, very colorful environment for this individual, right? So if you're someone that you do like art, maybe you're the type of person that your friends constantly tell you, oh, you should sell your art, you should start an Etsy account. Maybe you're good at arts and crafts, maybe you're good at painting, maybe you're good at drawing, maybe you're just good at decorating and designing. If you have an eye and a passion for making things look beautiful, whether that's in drawing or just your surroundings, then I think this might speak to you the most, right? Because again, in this scenario, we see the person again very engaged with their work, but also if we look at their screen, we see more colors, we see more icons. So obviously the assumption here would be that they're designing something rather than coding it, right? And from their surroundings, all the pencils, all the paintings, we can also assume that this person is very artistic, right? So I want you to think back, take a moment, just on those very brief descriptions and those very, first impressions of these pictures. Which one do you feel spoke the most to you? Was it the one with a innovative individual? Have you ever seen screens of code and maybe you felt very engaged by them, or you just thought that was really cool? What about the analytical one? Was it the graphs and the data and just thinking that you can work with technology that will help you, learn more about the things around you? Was that more your taste? Or maybe you're just 100% sure that the artistic one, that's you because you love drawing, you even draw on your iPad, or maybe you just do it with, pencils, oils, paintings, but you've always wanted to find a way to bridge that with technology. And again, I think these are the main ones. So with that being said, let's look at the roles, right? So for the first one, right, the innovative one, I would say this fits more into the role of what they typically call like software development and engineering. You're gonna have to work with problems. You're gonna have to be constantly figuring things out. You are gonna have to constantly be learning about new tools, new APIs, new libraries. We don't have to get technical into it. But for this specific role, which again, now you're looking at, if we want to talk the names of roles, things like network engineer, DevOps engineer, software developer, software architect, this kind of role and this particular area of focus is going to be revolving around you learning things quickly or you learning things consistently in order to find solutions for the business that you're working on, the company you're working on. So again, very rewarding job if that's the kind of thing you see yourself doing. Now, maybe you are a problem solver, but you're a little more analytical, and maybe you would just rather learn, a certain set of tools, get really good at that, and use that to provide insight. Well, then we're looking a little more into data analytics, right? I'm sure if you've heard anything about data science, I'm sure you've heard about the programming language Python. I'm sure you've heard about machine learning. I'm sure you've heard about data scientists. So again, those are the roles more related to that. Data science, systems analyst, database manager, systems administrator. Now, this might also involve some things more related to like monitoring. There are roles that involve, for big companies and big applications that are being handled, there needs to be people that are constantly monitoring how these resources are performing, and if something goes wrong or if something seems like it's not going right, then feedback needs to be given to the business in order to avoid any problems, avoid any downtime, right? So again, that also falls in analytics. Again, still very technical, still very interesting, but depending on where you see yourself and where your interests are, I would say for the most part, you do focus on a set of technologies depending on what company you work with in, whether that's Python, whether that's monitoring technologies like Datadog, Splunk. You're going to be a little more, not necessarily confined, but you're going to be expected to have a higher level of expertise for those tools that you use, right? Now, the last one, artistic. So again, I think if you're an artistic individual, it's going to be very clear to you that this is what you want to do. These are roles more like graphic designer, what they call a front-end developer, UI UX designer, content writer. So anything, a lot of these are related to the way the application looks, the way the application works in terms of when a user is using it. And, that does require some programming, that does require coding, but at the end of the day, I think what makes these individuals very talented, very skillful, and also just very valuable to companies is that somebody that's very analytical, very, just focused on the programming, usually they don't correlate too much with being able to make things look nice. Now that may be wrong. I've spoken to some people, they agree with me on that. But I know for me personally, I like working with backend technologies. I like learning new programming languages. I like learning new frameworks. I enjoyed that thoroughly. But if I was ever given a task that involved me making, an application look nice, a website look nice, trying to make things look aesthetic, I know I'd be very miserable. So that's definitely not going to be for me. But overall, again, there's obviously many more roles on text that you could pick from. But I think if you're at this stage, or at least the very beginning stages of your journey, like I knew I once was, I'm just hoping to provide some clarity for you. Now, if you have any questions, anything you would like to inquire about, even if it's, my experience, how I got started, join my Discord, send me a message. I'm going to be setting up one-on-one meetings pretty soon, so I'll be more than happy to help you by just sharing about my journey. There's so many resources you can use to learn about technology. There's so many resources you can leverage that are free that you can just start using to start learning and start building up your resume, because it is possible for you to start joining your career in tech even without a college degree, and it doesn't have to be as difficult as I know I once made it seem. But again, I do appreciate you watching. I hope this was helpful to you. And again, if you're at this point, like I know I was, and you just want to make that jump, I invite you to, look into this, do more research. And like I said, if there's any information I can provide for you, send me a message, join my Discord, send me a DM. I'll be more than happy to help you. Wish you the best of luck in your journey, and I'll see you in the next one.